If I ask you what makes a nurse truly great, if you sit down, you can create a list of dozens of qualities of a nurse. You might say a nurse should be punctual, a nurse should be intelligent, a nurse should be smart, but all these are qualities that any nurse must possess. But upon several research, it has been noted that if you want to be a great nurse, you have to possess these two traits. Now, if you have one of these traits, I think you will be really, really good nurse. But if you have both traits, you will be remembered by your friends, your colleagues, and your patients as a great nurse. What are the two traits? Trait number one is competency. What is competency? Competency is the ability to do your job successfully and efficiently. In other words, as a nurse, you have to know how to do your job, and that is perhaps the most important of the two traits I'm going to talk about in this video. You have to know how to do your vital signs. You have to know the normal and abnormal values. You have to be able to recognize signs of trouble from your patient and implement plan of care. So, what does a competent nurse look like on the job? Well, I think Florence Nightingale is a great example of a competent nurse. During the Crimean War, soldiers were dying left and right, not so much of their wounds, but also from the filthy condition of their room. That's the bed linen. The bed linen was infected with feces, lice, and numerous microorganisms. Rats were running around, and the room was absolutely filthy. So Florence Nightingale recognized that something needs to be done immediately. So she changed all their bed linen and provide them with clean ones. And due to that care that she implemented, the soldiers started living again. So Florence Nightingale was a competent nurse. Competency is something that you can learn, is something that you can practice as you go on in your career. As a student nurse, you will go for your clinicals. You will be stressed up with clinicals. You will be going for clinicals for numerous days. But I will assure you, if you put in much effort, you will come out as a competent nurse. One of the funny things of a competency is that patients will never offer you a lot of thank you for being competent nurse. Patients will expect you to give them their IVs, to give them their medication, to do what is expected of you. They may never know that you even saved their life. But being a competent nurse is so important. That's the first trait. What is the second trait? The second trait that every nurse must possess is that they must be a caring nurse. A caring nurse looks at a patient, not a chart that must be completed, not a medication that must be administered, or a disease that must be treated. No. A caring nurse must look at a patient that he or she is a human being. He or she has loved ones, has hope, has dreams, and fears. Caring can be a difficult thing to do. Some nurses refer to patients. Do you know the congestive heart failure in room 1? Do you know the diabetes in room 2? They begin to call patients by their disease that they have, by their medication that they are supposed to take, which is very bad. You know, caring can be very difficult to do. One nurse can be caring for about 6, 10, 12 patients. You might be overworked, underpaid, and extra stressed. Caring is something which is very hard for a lot of people to master. But if you want to be a great nurse, you have to master caring. So what does a caring nurse look like on the job? I'm going to read a true story to you, and this story, to me, perfectly exemplifies who a caring nurse is. I found this story in a book which has absolutely nothing to do with nursing. The title of the book is How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's one of those big business titan book, and I read this book last year. A man by name Martin Gegensberg published his story in a book which was written and published by Dale Carnegie in 1981. You can find the story on page 64 and 65. And he told the story thinking back the nicest thing anyone ever did for him. And you know whom he remembered? He remembered a young student nurse. I'm going to read the story to you, and I quote, "It was Thanksgiving Day, and I was 10 years old. I was in a welfare ward of a city hospital and was scheduled to undergo major orthopedic surgery the next day. I knew that I could only look forward to months of confinement, convalescence, and pain. My father was dead. My mother and I live alone in a small apartment, and we were on welfare. My mother was unable to visit me that day. As the day went on, I became overwhelmed with the feeling of loneliness, despair, and fear. I knew my mother was home alone, worrying about me, not having anyone to be with, not having anyone to eat with, and not even having enough money to afford a Thanksgiving Day dinner. The tears welled up in my eyes, and I stuck my head under the pillow and pulled the covers over it. I cried silently, but oh, so bitterly, so much that my body wrecked with pain. A young student nurse heard my sobbing and came over to me. She took the cover off my face and started wiping my tears. She told me how lonely she was, having to work that day and not being able to be with her family. She asked me whether I would have dinner with her. She brought 2 trays of food, sliced turkey, mashed potatoes, cranberry sauce, and ice cream for dessert. She talked to me and tried to calm my fears, even though she was scheduled to go off duty at 4 p.m. She stayed on her own time until almost 11 p.m. She played games with me, talked to me, and stayed with me until I finally fell asleep. Many Thanksgiving have come and gone since I was 10, but one never passes without me remembering that particular one and my feelings of frustration, fear, loneliness, and the warmth and tenderness of the stranger that somehow made it all bearable. So you know what the student nurse did for Martin Gegensberg. You know, he remembered the story so much that he published that story in a book. You have to master caring. So as a student nurse, as a staff nurse, you have to care equally for each patient as we have it in our pledge. You don't have to care for a patient based on his race, based on his or her nationality or tribe. So I pray that you will be a great nurse as you put on practicing competency and caring. I pray that you, as a student nurse, as a staff nurse, you will be a great nurse in Jesus' name. I pray that this video help you. Thank you.